You may not have noticed this, but players, they're moving up. When the market is treating you badly, you go to the blue chip stock, the safe point, where everyone knows it's steady going. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. Big shout out and thank you to all the wonderful patrons on the channel. And yes, this video will be a little bit longer today. I hope you guys enjoy it. The first thing we're going to talk about is the fact, like the real market out there, the real stock market where things are bad and tech stocks are down and things are horrible, people end up going to the safer stocks, the places that have always given them good returns. But in Magic the Gathering, when things go bad, some players don't know what to do. Some players just abandon ship and go to a whole new game. Other players cash in their collections and give up entirely. But you know what? There's a whole new breed of player out there that is doing something entirely different. Imagine right now, for yourself there, that you go and you went and you had some fun. You went to a pre-release. You've opened some packs still. You're not totally, hateful toward the game, but you're not going to buy lots of boxes. You feel like they're overprinted, which they are right now. That's definitely the feeling everyone's getting, the stores as well as distribution, what we're seeing on Amazon, right? So you feel that way. But you've opened a Shieldred. You got an Elish Norn. Maybe you picked up some great cards you really enjoyed. You got yourself an Urza, the High Artificer. Meek Mightstone, Blue Ogre deck, a lot of fun, a lot of good times. And you know those cards have value. And you look at it and say, wow, Shoulder of the Apocalypse, it's like a $85 card. Vorinclex is like $65. We got some serious value here. But players realize they only need 4. Sometimes they only need 1 if they're just playing Commander, which is the dominant format right now that Wizards is going to have to take a look at. I'm going to cover that in a different video. But that's where players start feeling like, I'm not sure if I want to hold on to these cards. If I get more than 1, I don't really need it. So what am I going to do? And not to mention the players who opened Dominaria Remastered. How quick did that die on the vine? And it did die. Don't believe what you hear. No sales are happening anywhere. When you look at those kind of sets and they say, how many Force of Wills do you need? How many times does it need to be reprinted, right? And we're getting another reprint set, the Commander Masters. Just remember, these all died on the vine. This is not going to go well for people. When you look at these cards and you see you have extra, what's been happening with players is they are trading them in to the LGS. They are saying, hey, I'll take like 80 cents on the dollar in trade-in value. But then those players aren't cashing out. They're keeping those cards on trade. They're keeping that money there. And when they have enough, they're buying reserve list. They're literally trading in 5-6 cards and they're getting their very first dual land. And not always heavily played ones. Some are lightly played because they have so much trade-in value. The way Wizards of the Coast has turned players away from newer products is truly stunning. It's awe-inspiring to see how badly they have mismanaged their player base, their clientele, their consumers. When the consumers don't have faith that those products will hold value long-term, because it's not a value in the sense of, oh, it's not worth anything. It's a race to see when that product will get reprinted. When it comes around again, shatters the value, and you lose 50 to 70% because the reprint drags it down. Yes, they can recover, depending on how often Wizards of the Coast reprints. Look at Fetch Lands right now. Look at Arid Mesa and those from Modern Horizons 2. They have not bounced back. They are still dirt bottom, and you know what? The damage could be permanent at this point, because I still see hundreds of copies available everywhere. If Wizards of the Coast reprints Fetch Lands again, it is not going to go well. But let's get back to this. So these players trade these cards in. They have extra Ragavan. They got extra whatever. And they say, $80 here, $50 there, $40 there. You only need 3 or 4 of these cards. And you can get your first Plateau, your first Savannah, Scrubland. A few bucks extra, you get your Badlands. Move into a heavily played Tropical. And when players do that a couple times, because let's face it, you're still opening packs, you're still going to a pre-release, you're going to a draft night, you still want to have a good time. You don't hate the game. You want to play it and enjoy it. But when there's that secondary market value that you can acknowledge or not acknowledge, if you're one of those people who says it should just be a card game, when you just look at it that way, there's value there, and you say, I want to kind of get some return on that investment, so I might as well go into a reserve list card. And some players are not going for high-end reserve list. They're going for things like Lake of the Dead, Metalworker, Argivian Archaeologist, Tanos' Coffin. And I got that great email, and if you watch this video, congratulations. I got that great video of the person who traded in all kinds of lower-end modern staple cards, right? Commander cards, worked into some dual lands, but then just traded all those dual lands they've gotten with some great exchange rates because some of these newer cards were worth so much, but the dual lands were so suppressed in value, and they got that first Mishra's Workshop. I know it's moderately played. Those photos still look great, though. Congratulations. And this is what we're seeing, and I'm hearing it from the store level as well as players. Players who say, I've traded in XYZ cards, and I moved into myself, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get myself my first Legends Abyss. It's an Italian version. I got it for $500. I got my first Neither Void. I went ahead, Moxman. I got an All Hallows Eve. I didn't pay a dime. I just traded in leftover cards I had. This is where the markets won't pick up on this. The bigger channels won't really notice this effect because it's not a massive movement of the market like a buyout where you see hundreds of copies selling. Okay? When you see hundreds of copies selling, you'll get it picked up on all kinds of these other YouTube channels saying, oh, look at this. It was a public buyout. It happened. Oh, it was crazy. No. These are the silent people moving behind the scenes, making small movements to get cards they've always wanted and playing in our sandbox of reserve list cards where a lot of us never really leave for the reserve list collectors, but new players who see that value and realize the values don't really change because it's like a blue chip stock area of the game and we don't let Wizards mess around with it, that they go, you know what? Why not buy that card? Why not trade all those cards in, pitch in $100? I wasn't going to buy a box anymore anyway, and I can get that card. I can work toward a Tabernacle at Pendlevale. I can go ahead and get my first beta Sarah Angel. Yeah, it can be reprinted, but it's beta. Or an alpha Wall of Swords. Alpha Wall of Stone for that matter. Guys, there are people moving into these areas because other people are starting to notice the change in values. When you see the reserve list cards this low, or even old cards that are just amazing to have, that original artwork, and you see the prices are down 50%, that's why players can say, they're going to reprint Sheoldred. They've already done it. The very next set after Dominaria United, they put it as an alternate framework inside Phyrexia, all will be one. Yes, it was hard to get, but it was there. These are the mistakes. Because Wizards is mismanaging their client base, players are shedding the newer cards. The fact Wizards isn't reinforcing Standard, and they tried to move it onto Arena and have now allowed Commander to take over, which is a one-of single format, it's messing up that secondary market of where they used to get their bread buttered. It's where they used to make all their cash, and these players are seeing that. And they are believing now it is better to move on to either a brand new card game, but also for these players moving into their first dual lands. Because you know after you buy your first dual land, you really can't go back. You're like, wow, my Commander deck just got so hooked up by this. It's amazing. And when you put that in with Triomes, again, you only need a play set of 4. You need 1 in each of your Commander decks. And you get 1 of each of those fetch lands. After you own 1, because of how Commander is built, you don't need more. And this is where Wizards of the Coast will have to correct, because more players will just shift their cash over to reserve list, which Wizards of the Coast right now doesn't have access to. And yes, they could break their own rule. They could get past the last Castle of Defense in Ghouls and Ghosts, and they could come at us like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And when that happens, it's gonna be a great show. And I'll report on it all the way through. But the fact I'm seeing this on the market, and the fact I can get emails from people out there saying, look what I just did, what do you think? Or do you think this was a good deal? And I gotta say, for every single one of you out there who did this, and for those who commented on some of my old videos that you had watched and done this, amazing. I still do it to this day, where I trade in newer stuff to work toward older cards after I'd played with them for a while. Timing the market's impossible. And the speed in which Wizards does things now just makes it more assured that you should do it quicker, right? If the faster you do it to get your value out, especially if you think a reprint could be around the corner, the quicker you can get into your first dual land. Your first Soldevi excavations, right? Tinfoil Hat Army? I know the card's dipping, but trust me, it's still hilarious to see what's going on. as well as moving into older cards that you just don't have access to, like Acid Rain, Living Plains, all these cards from Legends like Eureka that just aren't coming around again. And they're just amazing cards to play with and experience, which you normally don't have the opportunity to. Guys, I hope you've learned something here. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get across as a point. The fact that when the market's shaky like this and you've diverted people away, usually when people start collecting reserve list, they're more of a long-term collector. They don't give up their cards. They hold on to them very long-term. And that's why the pool of reserve list cards continues to shrink. And we seem to see a lightening of what's happening, which is there's just not as many cards. The conditions aren't as good as players consolidate and solidify their positions in older cards by trading in newer ones, which they believe just don't have value because of how Wizards of the Coast is managing things. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for being here on the channel. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comment section and for allowing me to entertain you guys each and every day with these daily videos. It's an amazing experience. I look forward to seeing you guys. Have a great day today. To the fantastic patrons of the channel, thanks again, guys, for that continued support. It's amazing to have such a great group of people around me supporting my content creation. Thanks again, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you on the live stream this weekend. Have a great one. Welcome to the end of the video. You know those moments where you get to say, I told you so? This is one of those times. And it's not so much that Wizards is messing up with. Companies do this all the time. It's that they haven't learned yet and corrected it yet. That really gets me going. I'm sure they are behind the scenes, but they're not doing a very good job of bringing that information to light. And because they're not bringing the information around, more players are kind of like saying, I don't think I'm going to stay here. I'm going to move on to some reserve list cards. I'm going to buy a few of these cards because let's face it, some of these cards are just as much fun to play with as anything new. Because when you play in the old school formats and you play with just cards from Ice Age or just cards from Alliances and play these little tiny format games like that, it can be a blast. Seeing the creations that people come up with that new players have never seen. Being able to buy Ice Age and Alliances and Fallen Empires, commons and uncommons and stuff for like a nickel a piece. You can build entire decks with old formats and you may have never had that chance to experience it. And it doesn't have to be reserve list cards. These can just be old school cards. That person who just sent me the photo of buying all those unlimited basic lands, that was awesome. Buying 25 of each for that price range was brilliant, guys. It was like less than 80 bucks for 25 of each one. You're going to have a complete play set forever. It's amazing some of the deals you can find, especially in the States. I mean, I know here in Canada we don't get as good of deals because we didn't get exposure to the market the way you guys did back in the day, but wow. This is what I'm talking about, and they're not learning. And more players who shift older cards, like Arabian Nights, I've never seen it this weak in the market where the cards can be bought at such a cheap price and so much could be sucked out of the market with a concentrated effort. And it doesn't have to be people with big money. It just has to be people with 20 bucks each and they buy one or two of each of these cards that are like still $5 or less on TCG Player. And of course you would use my affiliate link. Wow, crazy stuff. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing the comments. Hopefully this video gets received well and we get this pushed out to a lot of people. Don't forget to give videos a thumbs up. I'll see you guys soon. Awesome stuff. Just awesome.